What is up, my peoples? I have never been more dazed in my life. Just came out of a long stretch routine. Put on Vikings while we did that stretch routine. My goodness, I've never felt so much blood flow back to my brain. And I'm ready to go. So, we are on episode number 3 of Conversations with Connor. Last time I spoke about how I was getting back into a workout regimen. Um, I chose to break down how I go about choosing exercises for myself and basically what I would be doing for the next month, maybe 5 weeks, knowing that my circumstances regarding working out weren't going to be what they used to or what I'm used to. Um, I had spoke about how I would choose a few things that could improve kind of each kind of quality of fitness, and I think of those as things that challenge your cardiovascular health, things that challenge um, your muscles under load, um, and then that kind of breaks down into things like gymnastics, body weight movements, and then things like weight training or resistance training. And I gave some insight into kind of uh, things that I liked doing that I was going to continue doing, things that I had access to, um, and then kind of just gave myself some starting points with just some criteria like that. And then I broke down kind of why I picked the exercises and what I would be challenging myself with through using those exercises. But I didn't really go into the kind of like psychological aspect or approach of um, of entering working out again. So I wanted to give a bunch of considerations or talking points that you can have with yourself, as well as with a partner or a coach that can help you figure out where you're trying to go with your fitness journey. There is a ton of information that gets spoken about, that gets put in articles, that is done in research, as well as just practiced every day in gyms across the world. And there's so much information that it becomes incredibly confusing as to where to start. And I'm not going to be providing that starting point for anything specific or even in general, but rather bring up a bunch of things to consider that will help you figure out what that starting point is for you. And in doing this little project, I I look back on all the questions that people have asked me throughout the years, as well as just things that I have to ask myself daily when it comes to how I tackle goals. You know, things that aren't right in front of me yet, and this is all specific to the fitness endeavors of your choosing. So, the first one I want to start with is a question that I got in high school, where people just ask you, dude, like, you work out. How many times a week should I work out? How many times a week are you working out? And uh, yeah, that's definitely how it sounded then, and how it still sounds in my head now. But it is a very warranted question for somebody that never had practices or sports practices or was really interested in going to the gym, but knew that it provided health benefits. I put it in my last video that like I do these things simply because I like them, sometimes to the extent that they are unhealthy. and I have to learn constantly where those boundaries are in, you know, promoting longevity in my physical practices, as well as appeasing my ego on the side. So, question is, how many times should I work out? How many times a week should I work out? And we'll look at the traditional scope of time as the week for just planning a schedule that you can, you know, you feel like you have a fair amount of control over, and you can see into the future that well. So I would then go on to ask a series of questions of, what does your schedule allow for? What does your schedule allow for? Um, are you somebody that has the ability to invest 6 days a week of 45-minute to 60-minute sessions of whatever it is that you are practicing? Or are you somebody that can only devote maybe 2 or 3 days out of your week for a 30 to 45-minute session? What are we working with right here? And then, we'll give any answer. We'll say, I can only commit to 3 days a week, um, this time to this time. It doesn't matter what it is. Let's just start there. It does not matter what it is, but you know that you can devote your time and attention on these days to whatever it might be. All right, cool. That's set. You've blocked off a period of time in which you now have some foundation to build off of. Now, um, I'll give some insight into how many times a week should I work out on the two different ends of the spectrum. Uh, I'll use my own personal example. For weightlifting, I had a lot of success in maybe a 6 to 9 month period where I was only training twice a week, Wednesdays and Saturdays, maybe 90-minute to 2 hour sessions. On all the other days, I would accomplish movement. Sometimes it was movement that related to my weightlifting endeavor, but not always. We could be talking playing catch, going for walks, going for jogs, hikes, things like that, where I'm still moving, or even something like stretching. And then I've also been on a program where I was able to train about 6 months of 3 times a day, anywhere between 4 to 6 days a week, where I had a morning session from maybe about 6:30 to 8 a.m., and then a midday session from maybe 11 to 1 p.m., and a late afternoon session maybe from 4 to 6 p.m. And it was sustainable for that time window of 6 months until the habits that I had behind it were able to keep up with me training that much, as well as just schedule conflicts that wouldn't allow me to keep training that much. So it is goal dependent, but it is also, you might have other priorities in your life that outweigh you working on your fitness endeavor for pleasure, basically. So you should be able to answer that yourself, or have a coach work with you to determine how much time are you willing to invest or sacrifice in this, because you can go down the rabbit hole of manipulating things to the nth degree. I'm talking about food quality and timing. If I look at something like beef, um, and making sure that you get adequate protein consumption in, because you are training so often. You eat a pound of ground beef a day. You dredge the fat out with some paper towels, and you're used to eating, 80/20 ground beef that was grain fed, grain finished, and factory farm. That's kind of low on the quality totem pole. You can move into enhancing the quality of your beef by simply getting, products that were better raised. So that's a very, very niche thing in nutrition. I don't think it makes that much of a difference in terms of weight loss for somebody that needs to be working on eating adequate protein consumption to begin with. they have zero consistency. But if you're somebody that has excellent consistency, that would be diving down the rabbit hole into what can we do next to uh, improve the quality of what you're working on. You look at things like sleep monitoring, where people have wearables uh, that track their sleep and bodily rhythms to help you figure out, uh, you know, are your rest practices actually restful? So, um, does your week allow you to do those things? Are you committed to this much time? And then, depending on what your goal is and how much you want to deep dive into that goal, are you able, how far are you able to go down that rabbit hole? And then you decide, okay, I'm going to be 60% adherent to my program, my schedule for 3 months, and realize the consequences or manage your expectations in regards to getting 60% of the results at the end of those 3 months. Now, if you're somebody that was only getting 20% of the results because you're only putting 20% effort in, that's a massive improvement. So I wouldn't think about that too much. That comes from the question of like how many times should I work out? And then a lot of these things sparked questions that I would ask members when they were coming into the gym, or when I work with somebody new, or even just have conversations with friends about what they're doing to improve themselves in the fitness space. The next thing I think of is after having established uh, a schedule for working out, blocking things out and making it a priority, and realizing I want to just invest this much time into what I'm doing. I go, all right, cool. What do you have at your disposal? What do you have in front of you that's going to allow you to uh, to get started? Because um, even the things that we think are simple, like losing 5 pounds, somehow become really daunting when we think we have to get everything set up in order to get started. It's like, no, no, there are things that you're probably already doing, or think that you'd like to be doing, that can help you just get into day one, week one mentality. Like, you just got to take it one step at a time. So I'll give my own example with this one. I had to change my workout routine just because of moving around, getting a bunch of things in order, making sure that other priorities were taken care of, as well as I didn't really have a gym to go to. So I asked myself, all right, what are some things that I could be doing, even though I don't have access to what I would consider normal or what I was doing before in regards to training myself. And I went down to the basics in terms of I'm going to run for my cardiovascular health, and then I'm going to do gymnastics exercises um, and some weightlifting, odd object weightlifting in the meantime, to just kind of preserve whatever muscle mass I'm able to during this time that I'm not able to challenge myself with Olympic lifts or kind of traditional bodybuilding on machines and such. So it was about a month of just seeing what I had around me and coming up with a plan, and as many manipulations and variations of that plan in order to keep me going. So that could be you, where you don't have really anything at your disposal that's special. I'm talking that you don't have a fully kitted home gym, or you don't have a membership to a gym, a place where you can work out, but you've got a wheelbarrow and some backpacks that you can shove in there to make do for the month that you have to, until you're able to basically find a change in those circumstances. And that's just in regards to equipment. I also look at, if you're trying to make changes to your habits in regards to nutrition, what do you have in your fridge? Is there something that you bought in there that you told yourself that you're not going to, that you were going to eat, but you haven't eaten it? Maybe you just don't like that food, but if you picked a different food of the same category and it got you to stick to your plan, well, then awesome. It's like you have these things in front of you that you can either use or they can be uh, very helpful teachers just by showing you what your lifestyle is like right now and what you can do to either continue it or change it. So, I do want to add on one more thing to um, what do you have at your disposal in order to get started would be community. And I'm not talking about the proverbial community. I'm talking about, do you have a friend that also takes the same interest in whatever it is you're trying to accomplish? Um, and then um, do you have a coach or somebody that you can talk to, maybe just bounce ideas off of, or do you actually have somebody that you have employed to take handle of your health? Now, they should be able to help you figure out all these questions, but you should also, as just a person, be able to break it down uh, to this degree because you're trying to spend your time meaningfully. What's at your disposal, man? I had bedroom workouts. I have good people that are going to um, basically keep me accountable. And then, fun little things like fishing, throwing a ball around, kayaking, all those other little things that incorporate movement into your lifestyle help as well. Once you've gone through being able to say, I'm going to dedicate this much time into what I'm trying to do, once you're able to uh, kind of decide what you're uh, taking and moving forward with, and then what you're leaving behind, once you can accurately see what you have at your disposal, then I think you're better able to um, define like what the end product is, or you can at least start diving into that question where you create a picture of what you want to be at the end of this 3 weeks or 6 months. So you should be able to visualize what that looks like. How well do you know the end product, and then what are your like looming expectations of what that might be? There's two examples of losing 5 pounds. Okay, I do think that's very feasible uh, in 3 weeks. I also think it's incredibly reasonable and feasible to get accomplished over the course of 6 months. The hows of going about that don't differ in terms of the goal, obviously, but they differ in maybe daily tasks and what you're asking yourself to do. And the better that you can define that thing that you're going after, the better you can put practices into their places to help you out. Losing 5 pounds, running an ultra marathon when you haven't really practiced running before, right? If you can commit to that, well, then boom, I'm going to start pulling what I think is necessary, given that this is the schedule that I have, given that I know what food, equipment, people are going to be in my corner. I can now look at where I'm going a lot more clear. Flip side, what if I don't have a goal? Um, I like to think about, is this needed or is this wanted? Needed in terms of needed in terms of of is my health at risk and I need to put healthy practices into place so that I get out of risk? Or is this wanted where I am in a spot where I'm content with what I'm doing, but I would like to try to up the level of where I'm at? you get where I'm going. I think you have to ask yourself, is this needed or is it wanted? And either way, you should make sure it's fun. Although we do take a lot of our endeavors incredibly seriously and have a lot of focus, you're also here on this earth, man, and you gotta have some fun while you're doing it. Um, and that kind of goes back to a few things that I wanted to touch on earlier. Is like, do you want to work out or do you feel like you have to? Was there an underlying motivation or inspiration that sparked this interest? Really dive into that. Like, I love all the moments when I watch weightlifting and I go, oh shoot, there's a reason I chose to invest time in this. It gets me warm inside, man. I love the idea of how technical it is. I love the idea of um, a, a sport that is solo, right? You against an inanimate object, um, as well as the community that it's garnered. It's really cool, and when I see that, it reminds me of my passion for it. And then things like, I like other sports, like combat sports, and I go, wow, there's an art to punching someone in the face. That's crazy. It doesn't seem like there would be for some reason, but there really is. So like take a deep dive into what you're interested in and what kind of put you in this place to make a change, basically, because that goes into ultimately like how you motivate emotionally, spiritually, physically, and the practices that go behind getting you to do the thing that you said you wanted to do day in and day out. So, you know, make sure make sure you're able to define what you're able to accomplish or what you're going to accomplish, and be incredibly invested in it, and never feel you know never feel weird for what it is and what you feel like you're supposed to be doing. Oh, somebody said this, so I gotta go do this. It's like, no, dude. I think if you're able to answer these questions by yourself, you'll figure out um, you know your own unique fitness journey. And at times you could be really good at it, at times you could be really bad at it, but it's specifically fitted towards you. And it's going to do two things. It's going to serve the person that you are psychologically, your mental health, in terms of having goals and things to reach after, as well as keeping the physical body that we have uh, in a position to live many many years, um, without dying from the the things that maybe we shouldn't be such at risk of death for. After you've done that, after you've basically said, okay, I'm gonna work out this much, I am gonna invest this much time, I'm going to order my life in this way. I have these things ready to go. I don't have these things ready to go. I've decided that I don't have a goal and I'm going to explore, or I have an incredibly specific goal and I'm going to go about it this way. I think you're able to now start to craft some of your program, the tasks, what you're going to do, by first looking at what you've done in the past. I think uh, something that oddly brought me a lot of joy when I was taking in new members at the gym was hearing their story of what they used to do, how they don't do it anymore, and how they uh, they felt terrible about the position that they were in, but they were ready to do something about it. Me knowing on the other end that if you truly invested in where we were, the gym that we were in, for 6 months, 12 months, you took advantage of the program that we had to offer, the coaching that we had to offer, the space in the community that we had to offer, you wouldn't go back to what you were doing before. You'd be better. And I'd say better because you're at a completely different space in your life. Take the I used to run cross country in high school person. I wrestled in college. I got into MMA in my mid 20s. I'm now in my late 30s, early 40s, and I don't want to be doing that anymore. I realized the practices that had to take place in order to do that, but I don't like how I am now. I'm not sure if I'm ever going to get out of this physical space, right? As well as this mental space, perhaps. Uh, those things that you did, those things that you did when you were wrestling in college, or the kids' soccer that you did from 5 to 12 years old, you learn things there, you practice things there. They carry for a long, long time. Unless you just wiped your brain completely, it might be really hard to initially fall back on those practices, but you at least know what they look like. And in some cases, it only takes a few sessions to hop back on the bike, if you know what I mean. So it's important to look back on the good things that you had accomplished before, all of the habits of maybe waking up at 5 a.m. for practice for 4 years of high school, or knowing what it's like to travel for sports and work out and maintain a schedule while your life is constantly changing on the road. Because you have a game or a tournament that weekend, you have things in practice that you can fall back on. Again, it might not be easy to reach them immediately, but those are things that can be employed definitely in the beginning of your journey as well as throughout. There is the flip side to that. What are all the bad things that maybe led you to the place that you are currently at? Maybe you picked up smoking, you've always been a smoker, and your cardiovascular fitness or health is at risk. It's like, all right, well, that's something else that we need to address that you have done in your past in regards to your health that might not be bringing you towards a better future. You can look at things like injuries, um, where that college wrestler had a beautiful senior season, maybe was going towards the Olympics, uh, was a consistent performer, but blew out their knee and then realized that the passion was gone with it, and subsequently hasn't wrestled since, and truly believes that their knee is no longer functional, no longer functional to the degree that maybe got them to their championship season, but it's still functional to live 60, 70 more years, not even including uh, you know extreme medical intervention, right? So you have to be able to dig into what you've done to kind of help guide you with where you're trying to go, because that's basically your tool bag. Everything that you've done leading up to this point, you've learned from. Whether you liked it or not, you've learned from it. Now, you haven't necessarily applied what you learned from it, but here is your chance to do so. So take a look at your past. I give my own example. I have played a lot of youth sports. I got heavy into uh, training what is CrossFit and just general physical preparedness, and then I got heavy into uh, training Olympic weightlifting specifically. I know what it's like to have to take on a lot of uh, toll, a lot of physical wear and tear, what it's like to have to show up to things and do things that you don't want to do. I also know what it's like to eat really poorly during that time, and face the consequences of what poor nutrition and extreme training does to one's body. I also know what it's like when you're on a really great routine where you wake up the same time every day, you have all your meals prepped, you do all the other things that kind of coincide with that style of training, and reap the benefits of it as well. So that will help you kind of carve out your program as you move forward. If you're somebody that wants to lose 5 pounds, and you usually for the past 15 years, every 3 months, make it a goal to lose 5 pounds, well, boom, like you've been going through that process a ton of times. The things that we might apply in someone's progression there are going to be different from somebody who's never tried to lose 5 pounds before. Same thing with the person, as we're using as an example of a runner that's wants to train for an ultra running competition but has never really practiced running before. That training and that approach has the same goal at the end, but maybe the starting point tasks are uh, are different, not necessarily organized different, but um, how you get yourself to do them maybe is different. So it's a really, really neat thing trying to dive into why you do what you do and what you want to do. Um, what's really interesting with that is you've carved out time. You know exactly what you're trying to accomplish. You know what you're trying to invest, what you're trying to sacrifice. You know all the tools at your disposal. You have looked into what you've done in the past. You know the good habits, the bad habits, what you want to work on. You have a great community behind you. You have the food in the fridge. You have the stretching app on your phone. You wear the Whoop. Um, and you still have this thing in the back of your head where you go, I don't know, because you start to think about things like this. You start to think about, what is it supposed to look like? Yeah, if you're somebody that's working towards that goal, and you're striving, you're typically trying to do all the things necessary to get you where you want to go. But with the influx of information that is so readily available, so heavily talked about, so heavily shared, even in, me doing this right now, there's so many different voices coming into your head about what you should be doing. And you have to be able to accurately assess, what does working out look like to you. So I have everything in order. I'm literally about to, write out my next week's worth of tasks that get me towards my thing, but there's some sort of hesitancy, and basically lack of trust in the program, in the people that are around you, or in your own ability to accomplish those things, even with the help that you have. You have to go, all right, what is my expectation of the end result? How well have I crafted this end result? And then stop looking at the people that are already 5 pounds lighter than you, and somehow at the end of a buffet dinner are absolutely shredded, or the guy that has a remote job, uh, works from 9 to noon and runs the rest of the day while he trains for his ultra running marathon. He doesn't have anything else to take care of, right? It's just boom, I can devote that much time. And you go, oh shit, am I supposed to be doing that? No, because you decided what you are willing to invest, what schedule works for you, who you're going to talk to when things get tough, whether you're going to pick up a dumbbell or a barbell today because you only have dumbbells today. You've decided on all those things, and you can't let the constant influx of information that can be helpful basically thwart your view of what you're supposed to be doing, because ultimately that'll keep you from doing what you're supposed to be doing, uh, to do the thing that you want to do at the end. So be able to be an observer. You can admire those that maybe inspired you to do what you're trying to do now, and you can learn from their practices. But to emulate, to copy, is more often than not unreasonable unless you have the same exact circumstances as that other person or other entity that is, that has what you want or does what you want to be able to do. So I do think that is a big psychological thing that we tend not to consider when just trying to get started on a new endeavor. Is all this information that's coming at us, and this feeling of, um, you know, am I doing too much or am I doing too little? The better that you can define what you want at the end of your push that you're willing to give, as well as realize what you have in front of you, that has less of a chance of impacting you in the long run. And actually, as I speak about it, it sounds very, very, very dismal and dark, but it seems to be something that I have seen quite frequently, as well as dealt with in my own uh, fitness journeys, and even uh, just as a mindset with other things. So I'm going to flip it around and talk about motivation. I love motivation. Who doesn't love motivation? Who doesn't love feeling inspired and just ready to tackle things? I think it's incredibly important to realize that motivation and discipline are in the same category of willingness and just like life force. But uh, discipline is you coming at your goals from a very stoic approach and just forcing your body to, you know, get up out of bed when the bell rings and take the cold shower, not necessarily on a militant time frame, but just doing those tasks, whether you know, whether emotionally you are excited to do them or you dread doing those things. Motivation is a useful tool. Just know that it is temporary and it fizzles out the same way that everyone takes pre workout. There's a reason that we don't drink it all of the time. Now, I know that there are people who do that, and that's probably not the best to do all of the time. But, you know, you use that because it puts you in a state to work out. You have to now, with motivation, realize what motivates you. Like I'm someone that's incredibly motivated by food. Now, I do think I have a healthy relationship with food in terms of, oh, if I overeat, I don't beat myself up if I overeat. I chose to overeat. I wanted to indulge, right? Um, but like I like using food as a reward for working out. I know that if I put in this work, I know that the food that I'm going to eat is going to go towards fueling me, as well as keeping this guy happy because I ate something tasty today, right? So that's one thing. I also love having a sense of routine. So and something that's uniquely my own. So for example, like going into my weightlifting training, my weightlifting workouts, when I really choose to take it seriously, it goes the same way because it gets me excited to do that thing, even though it's the same thing over and over and over. It's I'm going to watch weightlifting videos because uh, I enjoy seeing other people do well at the thing. They serve as an example. sometimes when I'm not being one, I'm putting myself in a headspace where I go, you know what, you know, if that guy can do it to my standard, I can do that practice too. I can approach it with this mindset. I can learn from his mindset. I can make technical changes, and that excites me internally. So I watch weightlifting videos. I love coffee, and I'm not a big pre-workout guy in a sense that I take lab made pre-workout. I drink a lot of coffee. I prefer a little cup of espresso before I train while I watch my videos, and I just get my mind ready to engage in that practice. And then I tend to foam roll my whole body rather aggressively. I think it's the lowest hanging fruit of movement as well as self-afflicting pain. It has, little benefit in terms of what it does physiologically, but god damn it, does it get me ready psychologically. And then I move into a warm up that is going to prepare me physically a little bit more so than something like the foam rolling. I'm very direct. I like to keep a very fast pace when I'm warming up. I like to throw myself into that process very quickly, like kind of bull rush things. It gets me excited. So these are all things that I've practiced, messed up on, and then refined to turn into a routine that encourages some internal motivation through external techniques. Continuing with what I do my field warm up, lots of hops and skips and jumps and dynamic stretching, and then I go to the barbell and I explore with the barbell. I'm incredibly confident with moving the barbell in regards to Olympic weightlifting, and it makes me happy to be able to express going through a bunch of different cues and positions and things to work on. So I run through that, and I'm finally ready to uh, go about my practice. I don't typically listen to music. At times I listen to music more so for the challenge. Um, and the challenge is what motivates me. It's not necessarily the music that motivates me. I don't very well get hyped up from things like that. I actually get beaten down by them more. So let's say at a competition the music's blaring, I have in the past let things like that affect my performance. So when I listen to music and work out, it's to challenge me to deal with things that are going to maybe distract me or take away from my focus. And in doing so, that excites me. That gets me to keep moving forward because I know in the end, it's going to benefit me, or at least I have convinced myself that it is going to benefit me. So um, these are just motivational practices that you can do even on the physical side. Like I had a cup of coffee in place. I have done that so many times that it's like, cup of coffee, movement. Oh, movement, food. And I just kind of cycle through that. There are things that you can do emotionally and or get yourself emotionally charged, right? Maybe you're somebody that loves a game time speech. Well, guess what? You can give yourself a game time speech. You can have mantras. You can have a journal where you write out exactly how you're trying to feel and what you're trying to accomplish in that moment or in those days, weeks, and months worth of work. These are all things that are basically making your path far more clear. And I find that when you have a path that's incredibly clear, like a 100-meter race, you know you're supposed to go from point A to point B. That's why it happens the fastest, because you have a direct line of sight that you have trained for, or at least that you have put things in place where it's going to go uninterrupted. Granted, that 100-meter run, for example, you couldn't take into account that you tied your right shoe tighter than your left. It caused you to take a few funky steps, and boom, hamstring cramp. It's like, whoa, no, you couldn't foresee that happening. Life happens, but how well can you set yourself up with all of these tools to get you going forward? You can do things physically, you can do things emotionally, you can do things spiritually in regards to, you know, how you pray, how you practice gratitude, and basically put yourself in the mindset to move forward with what you're trying to move forward with. And that will help you with all of the outside things that come along when or that show up that kind of derail you, not completely, but just kind of like wobble your tracks, if you get what I'm saying. You trust not only in your plan, but now you trust in yourself to execute the plan. What's funny is all of this sounds like so much. I totally agree. Again, if you um, if you take the time to accurately define and assess these things, you have the ability to make the changes that you uh, want. And you might already have answers for, 3 or 4 points, and you just need to fill in the gaps. Uh, so, man, oh man, man, oh man, it's a neat thing when your vision becomes clear. I mean, that's how you get Olympians. That's how you get people that break records. That's how you become what it looks like. That's how you become a high performer. I think has the ability to everyone has the ability to become their highest version of themselves. Now, and that doesn't always mean uh, uh, a gold medal or a new world record or a new PR, but it bleeds into your life everywhere else, man. And hopefully it improves the quality of your life. So at the end of the day, you know that this change you're gonna make just in regards to your physical health, whether you are just trying to lose 5 pounds, or you're trying to run an ultra, or you want to, you know, do weightlifting for the rest of your life, you have these things to fall back on, and you have these things to be proud of. Uh, you have these things to be proud of, and it's really cool. So I think that wraps up most of the points that I wanted to uh, throw out for the people's consideration when it comes to how do I get into working out? How do I get started? And, as I'm getting started, what are the things that I should consider? What are the things that I should consider? Thank you guys. That was long winded, a little bit emotional, as I have learned a lot of these things throughout the years and put most of them into practice recently with myself and the people that I work with and work around. And I see that everyone just wants to get better, and I hope this helps. So that wraps up episode 3 of Conversations with Connor. I hope you guys have a beautiful day. Make sure you stretch your stretches, drink your water, and take your walks, and eat your food, and sleep your sleeps, and get ready to do it all again. Onward till tomorrow, brother. Let's go.